I know I have a reputation for starting every recipe with a pound of butter, but this one's actually a lemon cake that's made with yogurt and vegetable oil, so it's even good for you, and it's delicious. So I'm going to start with the dry ingredients. 1½ cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and ½ teaspoon of salt. Just sift those together. Okay, I need 1 cup of yogurt. I use whole milk yogurt. I think it gives a good flavor. Okay, 1 cup of sugar. You can make it without butter, but not without sugar. Okay, 3 extra large eggs. I always break them into another bowl just in case you get a bad egg. I always use room temperature eggs when I'm baking. Really makes the cakes lighter. ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract. 2 teaspoons of lemon zest. That's actually about the zest of 1 lemon. Just right into the bowl. This is what gives it all its flavor. I actually think the zest has more flavor than the juice, so whenever I make something with lemon, I always put the zest in. Smells good already. And then later I'm going to use the juice and make a syrup, lemon syrup for it. That's about 2 teaspoons. Okay, I'm just going to whisk it all together. The idea for this recipe actually came from a recipe I saw that my friend Dory Greenspan wrote for yogurt cake, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to see if I can adapt my lemon cake into a lemon yogurt cake? It worked beautifully. Okay, I'm just going to take the dry ingredients, whisk them in. I'm just going to toss them with my hand, make sure they're well mixed, and just slowly whisk them in. You want to whisk them just enough until it's stirred, but not overmix it. I love that you can make this without a mixer. Okay, next thing I need is ½ cup of vegetable oil. It's a flavorless oil. Just stir it in. So it's always so interesting to have 2 people come for lunch that I've never met before. I wonder what Doug and Paige Campbell are going to be like. Okay, into the pan. I've greased and floured a loaf pan. Just pour this right in. That was a pretty easy cake, wasn't it? Perfect. Into the oven, 350 degrees for about 50 minutes, and then I'm going to drizzle it with the lemon glaze.
Honey, are you ready? It's time to go to Ina's.
So the lemon yogurt cake is out of the oven, and while it cools, I'm going to make a lemon syrup to pour over it, make it even better. So I need 1/3 cup of lemon juice. Need a little more. It's about 1½ lemons. Perfect. I'm just going to heat it up with 1/3 cup of sugar. I'm just going to let that come to a boil until it becomes just very clear. Take a few minutes. I'm going to see if I can get my cake out of the pan. So this cake has lemon zest in it. There's lemon juice on it. And if that's not enough, I'm going to make a blueberry sauce for it. Came out perfectly. I'm just going to cook this until it becomes clear, until the sugar dissolves. You know, these guys spent a lot of money for this lunch. I hope it's good enough for them. Okay, this is perfect. Sugar's dissolved. And I'm just gonna spoon it right over the cake. And then what it does is it just soaks right into the cake, keeps it really moist. It has lots of great lemon flavor. I have to admit, I'll take lemon over chocolate any day. So this is good just the way it is, but with a fresh blueberry sauce, it's gonna be even better. Lemon yogurt cake on its own is just fine, but since these guests are really special, I'm gonna make a blueberry sauce for the cake. We'll make it into a whole dessert. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take 3 half pints of fresh blueberries. Then I'm gonna put vanilla sugar in it. And what it is sugar that I've immersed vanilla beans in. You can buy it in the store or you can make it yourself. After I take the seeds out of the vanilla beans, I just put the pods right in here, and it smells absolutely amazing. I love this. I've had this jar, I think, for 20 years. I just keep adding vanilla and sugar to it. So I need 1.5 cups of vanilla sugar. That's 1 cup. And another half. Try and get it into the cup, not on the counter. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, plus 1/3 cup of water. I'm just going to cook this together. Bring it to a simmer for about 15 minutes. And then later I'm going to add some fresh lemon juice. So the sauce is reduced. It's so nice and thick. It's amazing. Berries and vanilla sugar. You can really smell it. It smells wonderful. Now what I'm going to do is just strain it. And all it is really is blueberries and sugar and vanilla. And if you press the berries through the sieve, end up with a really nice thick sauce. And you get to use all the blueberry. You'll see, you can see some right there. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice to it. I just think a little bit of acidity sort of cuts the sugar. A little bit of lemon juice in it. Just a touch of lemon juice, about 1/2 tablespoon. Just really gives the sauce more depth of flavor. And that's it. You can really smell the fresh blueberries and vanilla sugar, a little bit of lemon juice. I'm just gonna let that cool. That's gonna be delicious on the lemon yogurt cake. It's Jeffrey's birthday today, and he hates big celebrations. So I told him I'm gonna take him to lunch, but I've got something even better planned. So we're meeting at the flagpole, and the story unfolds. I sort of think over 25, nobody really needs a birthday cake. So what I'm making is I'm making a raspberry orange trifle, little individual ones. It's gonna be fantastic. But first I have to make orange pound cake. So I've started with 1/2 pound of butter and 2 cups of sugar in the mixer, and I've beaten them till they're nice and light and fluffy. I'm gonna add 4 eggs, just 1 at a time. It's really important that the butter be at room temperature, and that doesn't mean it's out for like 20 minutes. It means it's out for several hours, and then everything else gets incorporated so the cake is really light. Because it's orange pound cake, I'm adding 1/3 cup of orange zest. It's a lot, but it really makes it delicious. Okay, next is the dry ingredients. I need 3 cups of flour. Just lighten it and level it off. I always do it in the sifter to make sure there's nothing in the flour that you don't want in your cake. And it also combines the flour and the other ingredients. Next thing is 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and just sift it all together. And that's the dry ingredients. Most of the cakes I make have butter and sugar mixed and then dry ingredients and wet ingredients added alternately. It makes the lightest cake because everything's incorporated. So now the wet ingredients. I have 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice. And then I'm gonna add 3/4 cup of buttermilk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So that's the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. I'm just gonna add them to the batter. So with the mixer on low, I'm just gonna add the flour, about 1/4 of it. Just add it slowly so it gets incorporated. And then the wet, about 1/3. And this is why it's so important, room temperature ingredients, including the buttermilk. because it all gets incorporated into the batter and it really makes it moist and light. Okay, another third. Ooh, this smells fantastic. The orange zest makes such a difference. So I want to begin and end with flour. Then the last bit of juice. And the last of the flour. This is going to make 2 orange pound cakes, and then I'm going to make it into raspberry orange trifle. Okay, just give it a big stir to make sure it's really well mixed. Okay, now it goes into the pan. I've got 2 loaf pans. They're 8.5 by 4.5 by 2.5. And actually, here's my little trick for making sure they're exactly the same, is I put them on a scale. And then you know you've gotten them exactly the same size. Okay, batter into the pan. I've buttered and floured the pans. Don't want to make a cake that you can't get out. A little piece of parchment paper ensures that too, right at the bottom. This is a really nice batter. And the cake is just really moist and delicious. And then later, I put a little drizzle on it, a little orange syrup that even adds to the moistness. Okay, so these are the 2 pans. Let's see how they weigh. Okay, so that's 211. This one is 2.7. So I need to take a little bit out of this, and we're there. I just want both cakes exactly the same size. I just think it's more professional looking. Okay, and into the oven, 350 degrees for 45 minutes. And then I'm going to put the orange drizzle on it. So I've cooled the cakes just long enough so that I can get them out of the pan. You want them still warm. And then I'm going to put an orange drizzle on them. It's simply 1/2 cup of granulated sugar mixed with 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice and cooked over low heat just until the sugar dissolves. So the key to the drizzle is you want the cake warm so it really absorbs the syrup. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. Really adds an enormous amount of flavor to the cake, and because of the syrup, it keeps it really moist. I'm going to use one of these cakes for the 2 individual trifles, not all of it, and the other cake is for the freezer. Perfect. So I'm going to make individual trifles for them. I'm starting with orange pound cake. So the first thing I'm going to do is spread the cake with jam. Trifle is really a layering of jam, cake, and pastry cream. And so what I'm doing is orange cake, raspberry jam, fresh raspberries, and orange pastry cream. I suspect this was originally designed to use up leftover cake and leftover fruit, but now it's actually nice to make a fresh one. So you want to use something glass for this because you want it to look really messy and you can see the sides and the layers. So some fresh raspberries, and then the second one. So orange pound cake, fresh raspberries, right on top. And next is orange pastry cream. It's delicious. Combine 1.5 cups of milk and 1 teaspoon of orange zest in a small pan and bring it to a simmer. Then, in the bowl of an electric mixer, beat 5 eggs and 1/2 cup of sugar until it's light yellow and very thick. It takes about 5 minutes. Sprinkle on 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Then, slowly pour in the hot milk and orange mixture. Pour it back into the pan and cook it over very low heat for 5 to 7 minutes, stirring constantly until it's really thick. Okay, now pour the mixture through a fine sieve into another bowl. Smooth out any lumps. Just a few more things to add. 1/2 teaspoon of good vanilla extract, 1/2 teaspoon of liqueur, orange of course, a tablespoon of unsalted butter, and a tablespoon of heavy cream. Just whisk it all together, cover it with plastic wrap, and chill it. So I'm going to put orange cream on top of each one. Oof, this looks gorgeous. How luxurious does that look? And I love when it just drips down the side so you can really see it. 2 big spoons. Okay, another layer of cake. Oof. More raspberries. More pastry cream. I can't wait for this birthday lunch for 2 reasons. Can't wait to surprise Jeffrey, and I really can't wait to see what Lily is doing. She's one of the hottest event planners in the Hamptons. She's setting the scene at Home Sweet Home. And this is your third birthday wish. No birthday cake and candles.
Oh,
I made
look
you
at
a
that.
raspberry orange trifle.
It looks just
I hope you
scrumptious.
like it. One of my favorite treats to bring is lemon poppy seed cake, which is what I'm making now. And I make it in this bun pan. Okay, that's the pan. Now the batter. So I started with 2 sticks of butter, it's a ½ pound, and 2 cups of granulated sugar. Butter has to be room temperature so it really gets light and fluffy. And I've mixed it for about 2 to 3 minutes, and it's just about done. So next is eggs. I've got 4 room temperature eggs, and I do it 1 egg at a time. 1 teaspoon of good vanilla. And 1/3 cup of lemon zest. It's a lot, but it is lemon poppy seed cake after all. Okay, now I'm ready for the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients, and I'll show you how I combine them. I started on the wet mix a couple of hours ago. I poured a cup of buttermilk into a liquid measuring cup, added 1/3 cup of poppy seeds, and stirred them together. I set the mixture aside for 2 hours to allow the poppy seeds to soften. Then when the time was up, I added 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice and mixed it in. For the dry mix, I measured out 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour and put it into a sieve set over a bowl. Then added 1/4 cup of cornstarch, teaspoon of kosher salt, ½ a teaspoon of baking powder, ½ a teaspoon of baking soda, and sifted them all together. So at this point, I'm going to turn down the mixer to its lowest stir. And starting with the dry ingredients, I'm just going to slowly add them in thirds. First the dry ingredients, then the wet ingredients. And just let it mix in until it's just done. Don't want to overmix once the flour's in. And then I always turn it off and actually use the spatula to just fold it in and make sure it's really well mixed. Okay, that's perfectly mixed. So now into the bun pan. This cake's great because you can make it, you can keep it in the refrigerator. I always serve it at room temperature, but it'll hold in the refrigerator for about a week, or you can freeze it really well. And just take your spatula and smooth the top, make sure it's even. Okay, into the oven, 350 degrees for 45 minutes, till a toothpick comes out clean. Okay, how good does that look? Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes. If you turn out a hot cake, sometimes it can break and you don't wanna do it. No point in going through all that trouble. So in the meantime, I'm gonna make a lemon drizzle to pour over the cake. I've got ½ a cup of fresh lemon juice and ½ a cup of sugar, granulated sugar. I'm just gonna cook it just enough so that the sugar dissolves. Okay, this is done. I'm just gonna turn it off. So the cake is cooled for about 10 minutes. You can actually see it just pulls away from the pan a little bit. So normally you just dump it out like that, but I always worry about it breaking. Don't want a broken cake. So I'm gonna take the rack and just turn it over like that. And if you're lucky, and if you grease the pan properly, it'll come out. And there it is. That looks great. So now I'm gonna take the drizzle to pour over the cake. And you don't wanna dump it on it. You just wanna sort of slowly run it around so that it absorbs it, just like that. And I did it over a baking pan so that it didn't run all over the kitchen. It just runs into the pan. Because too much is never enough, I'm gonna make a glaze to put on the cake. So I need a cup of confectioner sugar and a few tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, maybe about 1½ but I'm gonna do it slowly. I'm looking for something that's like a very thick but pourable glaze. Let it just run down the sides, just like that. I'm making vanilla cream cheese pound cake. So I'm starting with 3/4 pound of butter. Next is the cream cheese. I need 8 ounces and 2½ cups of sugar. I'm just gonna turn on the mixer and cream them together. Do it slowly to start until it gets combined, and then you can do it faster. I'm just gonna get this all creamed together so it's light and fluffy and really well combined. Then I'll turn the mixer to low, add 6 eggs, 1 at a time, scraping down the bowl whenever necessary. Okay, that's a lot of batter. So I need 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. I'm gonna turn it on low when I put it in so it mixes in. And then, because too much vanilla is never enough, I'm gonna put in vanilla bean. So this is a dried vanilla bean. I'm gonna slice it down the middle and scrape the seeds out. And that just goes right in. I'm just gonna scrape down the bowl, just make sure it's all really well mixed, and then I'm gonna add the flour. Okay, so on low speed, I've got a combination of 3 cups of cake flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna put it in really slowly. Now, because there's so much in here, all of the flour didn't get mixed in, so I'm gonna do it by hand. Okay, let me show you the pans. I have regular loaf pans, and I've brushed them with oil, or you can spray them with baking spray, and then sprinkled them with demerara or turbinado sugar, which is that rough, raw sugar. So I've got 2 pans. I'm gonna try and divide this batter evenly among the 2 pans. I'm gonna smooth out the top and then into the oven. They bake at 325 degrees for about an hour. I'll test the cakes by inserting a toothpick in the middle. If it comes out clean, they're done. I'll let them cool in the pans for 30 minutes, then take them out of the pans to cool completely on a baking rack. And here they are. I wish you could smell the vanilla, it's incredible. It's got such a rich texture, really fine, and lots of vanilla. First thing I want to make for Antonia and Donna is a sour cream coffee cake. It's a really moist sour cream cake with a streusel in the middle. I'm going to start with 1½ sticks of butter, 1½ cups of sugar, and I'm going to cream that together until it's light and fluffy. And then I'm going to start on the dry ingredients. Okay, so the first ingredient is cake flour. Cake flour I found is a little lighter and fluffier, so that's what I use. 2½ cups of cake flour. If you don't have cake flour, you can use 2¼ cups of regular all-purpose flour and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. 2½ Great. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Makes it nice and fluffy. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Sift that together. Okay, so this is all nice and fluffy, the sugar and butter. I'm gonna add 3 eggs. I'm gonna add them one at a time. Scrape down the bowl to make sure it's really well mixed. You know, baking is one of those things that's really specific. With cooking, you can just throw stuff into the pan, see how it is, but when you're baking, it has to be exactly the right ingredients and the right measurements. Okay, some good vanilla, really important in this. 1½ teaspoons. And 1¼ cups of sour cream. This is what makes it really moist. 1 and got it all over the mixer too. Okay, now I'm going to turn it on low, lowest speed, and just slowly add all the dry ingredients, just with your hand. And beat it just until they're really mixed. Okay, last thing I always do is just mix the batter with a rubber spatula, make sure, really get the bottom. Sometimes the mixer doesn't get exactly the bottom and all the sides. So I'm just gonna stir it with a spatula, make sure it's really well mixed. It's not about beating it, it's just about folding it. Okay, now for the streusel, the good part. So I'm gonna just combine it in a bowl, 1/4 cup of light brown sugar, 1/2 cup of flour. This is the crumbly part of and the flavorful part. 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 3 tablespoons of butter, which I'm going to just crumble into the streusel. Clean hands, best tools. It's always surprising to me how important salt is in a recipe like this. I think we always think of salt as a savory thing, but for baking, really brings out the flavor of the cinnamon, the brown sugar, sour cream. I don't know how traditional walnuts are for a streusel cake, but I'm gonna add some because I think it turns up the flavor. So about 3/4 of a cup of chopped walnuts. You can just buy them already chopped. But if you don't like walnuts, just leave them at it. It's still delicious. And just crumble all of that together. Okay, now I'm gonna put the cake together. So clear the decks a little. I can really make a mess. I always think creative cooks are not neat cooks. So I'm gonna do this in a classic tube pan. If you don't have something like this, you can always use muffin pans. It makes great muffins. But I've buttered and floured this. What I'm gonna do is put half the batter in the bottom. Oh, this smells so good. I can really smell the vanilla in it. The sour cream. It actually doesn't look like a lot in the pan, but it really rises up. So I'm just gonna spread it out with my spatula so it's even. I'm going to take 3/4 of the streusel and just spread it evenly on the top of the batter. So there's going to be streusel in the middle of this cake as well as on the top. I'm going to take the rest of the batter, put it on top, just sort of place it on top, and then I'll smooth it out later. I'm so looking forward to seeing Antonia and Donna. We have such a good time together. Okay, I'm going to smooth this out. And then more streusel on top. It's amazing how much this gets really moist and light. So into the oven, 350 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes, and we're gonna have a really good cake. So my philosophy is too much is never enough. So I'm gonna add a maple drizzle to this to make it even better. And it's really easy. A half a cup of confectioner sugar. And 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I really like good maple syrup. Not the stuff that says syrup-like or syrup-flavored, or it's really maple syrup. And the best kind is grade A amber. It has that sort of smoky flavor. So it's not just sweet, it has a real depth of flavor. This is pretty casual. If it's a little too thin, you can add a little more confectioner sugar. If it's too thick, you can add another drop of maple syrup or even warm water. Okay, that looks just about right. So it's runny, but it's thick. And I think a spoon's gonna be the best way to do this. So just take it and just drizzle it over the top. You know, it's a little thicker than I wanted. I'm gonna add another drop of maple syrup. Okay, that's perfect. Even better. Just want it to drizzle down the side a little bit. This is actually not about being perfect. It's about being a little messy.